Hello, this is Michèle from Jasami Bookworm Podcast. And yes, we're back to our weekly interviews and chats. And I am delighted to introduce this week's guest is Simpson Munro, the author of Andy Blackmore Police Constable series, as well as the publisher. Welcome, Simpson.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Well, we have a very big deal going on. It's been in the works for a little while. It's the third part in the Andy Blackmore series. So the original is An Officer's Tale. Mm-hmm. Then Andy went off on a secondment, and now he is going home. Hence the reason for the cover on the third book. And I am so delighted to announce that the release date is the 26th of July. We will have it available for pre-order very, very soon. Links will be set up on the website, or if you're in touch with Ian and with Simpson. Sorry, I'm losing the plot here. I keep forgetting all the characters. Anyway, so now it's been a little while since the first book, the second book, and I know there's others coming down the pipeline before I'm 5,000 years old. Mm-hmm. But let's give the audience a little taste. Would you like to do a short reading from Going Home? And if so, Simpson, what have you selected?
I'm going to select the prologue, but having had a look at it, I think there's two wee bits I need to miss out because it would be a spoiler alert.
I would suggest just reading it and
okay. Prologue to Going Home. When acting detective Constable Andrew Blackmore's secondment ended, little did he know that he had been watched from start to finish by senior officers at police headquarters who knew of his relationship with Susan Berger and her family. They also knew that with his style of policing, albeit a bit dubious at times, he was the one, with the right guidance, who could bring a new major inquiry to a successful conclusion, despite his lack of experience. As ADC Blackmore left the Criminal Investigation Department for the last time, he thanked his colleagues for their commitment to him and for passing on their knowledge to enhance his career. He was looking forward to going home to his shift at Bankvale Police Office and a life without his beloved Susan Berger. Following the death of Susan, Andy decided that he would have a break away from everything and everyone, booking a holiday on his beloved island of Tenerife. The week's holiday that he'd planned for peace and quiet did not go as expected when he met old flame Catherine Smith and her friends. In just over 2.5 short years in the job, he had made an impact on senior officers, but he had also become a major target for those within and out with the police service who had secrets to conceal. Despite everything that had happened, professionally and personally, Andy knew he was returning to work with colleagues and friends. So there you go.
Excellent. That's a nice little prologue. So it will whet the appetite for what's going on in the future in this book. Now, I know throughout the years the editing process has been a little bit challenging in the beginning. And now, working with Going Home, you had a lovely young team of Anton, Callum, and David that you worked with who reviewed things.
Yep.
My question to you, Simpson, what is the biggest difference that you've recognized within yourself about editing? What's the biggest difference?
It's got to be done. And as someone said when we met them through in Edinburgh, it's my baby. I don't care if it's got 2 heads and 6 legs, but don't touch it. The truth of the matter is it has to be touched. It's as simple as that. And I think I was speaking to someone the other day who actually said to me that when he read An Officer's Tale, he enjoyed it. And he says there was a difference between An Officer's Tale and a secondment. He said, because I could see your writing style starting to change. And then he says, when I read The Publisher, he says, I really enjoyed it simply because again, you'd learned and you had progressed. When it came to going home, I got it sent back to me, and there was a comment, she said, he said, she replied, he replied, when you actually know who's speaking to each other. So I trawled through it for something like 20 hours and started out with something like 520 odd of these he said, she said, and the whole book ended up with 82 at the end. And reading it over, I think the book, even though I say it myself, it looks as if it's been written by a grown-up this time, you know.
The other part I feel too is that working with the editors, they've made such really accurate insights into it and about the continuity of it, and also retaining your voice, because the author's voice is what's essential, and it's about making the story, the best it can be. The part that you were talking about, I know when we say, what are you doing, he asked, when I know that's one of my pet peeves, there's a question mark there, we know he's asking a question. But it's about adding the action or something that's going on so people get more of a feel for the character. And I think the observations are made that Andy is a much richer character through the arc of the 3 stories. And that's what a protagonist, what's really important is that the protagonist has grown. What's the goal? What are the obstacles? How they've grown as an individual, as a person. And I really do think that it does shine through. And his underlining mischievousness does stay there, but the growth as a person. So it's the growth as a writer that you've done, and the more you do it, as we do anything, the more we practice, the better we are, the better we get at it.
So, as you said, this is a trilogy. The story over the 3 books comes to a conclusion in this one. It rounds it off and it finishes what Ed got involved in.
Yes. That underlying arc.
Yeah. And I must admit, I'm happy with it. I know that a police officer who I've known for many, many years read An Officer's Tale and said, this just isn't right. You couldn't get away with this. And you couldn't get away with it in the late 70s into the early 80s. But I think if you're writing a story, you're not writing a police report.
No.
You've got to have some poetic license about what you're doing.
It's also reflective of the times, which, and obviously we have it written in the front, is that it's not meant to cause offense to anyone, but it remains true to the times that were there in the 70s and the 80s, which are different than they are now. And we have a much greater acceptance and acknowledgement of it. But if someone wants to read a part of history, we cannot change history. It has to be read, acknowledged, and said, yes, we've grown from there. Just as we can't change ancient history and the building of the pyramids and the slaves that were used and what happened. We cannot change it. We accept it and say that's not acceptable in today's society. But I think it's really important to retain that honesty and integrity for the time and to show that, yes, it wasn't right, but that was what we lived in. And the 70s and 80s weren't all horrible. It's just a matter of learning lessons, and that's what we do. So speaking of learning lessons, I'm really delighted to announce that we have set up the Jasami Writers Group, which is a support group for writers within Jasami. And we have several of our authors who have joined into it. And Simpson was mischievous and created, tell them what you did, because I think this is a great little idea, an icebreaker for the writers within it.
Well, you and I have done a wee joint story together and come up with the idea of how do we break the ice. albeit the writers all know each other by name, but the support group is if you're stuck or you can't think of something, or if you want to know where George Square in Glasgow is and you're living away down in London, you don't know what it looks like, or anything, Andy that lives in Glasgow can explain it to them. So we're helping each other. So I came up with this crazy idea, and it was crazy, that I would start a short story, right? And the short story is all about a teacup, but not any ordinary teacup. It's a commemorative teacup for when Her Majesty the Queen got crowned, when she got crowned. And then I put it out, does MD fancy writing the next wee bit? And all of a sudden, this short story could end up about 1,000 pages long. So before the first day was out, there was my part. Micah then added in a section about a page long. Then Freedom added in a section about a page long. And now it's grown.
And Shirley.
Now Shirley, who's out in Zambia, she's seen it and she's added in a bit about a page long, and it's just growing arms and legs. But I still think it's a great way of breaking the ice with everybody to say, oh, I really don't want to ask this question, I might look stupid. No, you won't, because we've all been there and been down that road.
And we have 2 additional writers. Trinity Rose has joined in,
yep,
as well as Maureen Howley. And then and Steve Logan, our local poet. Well, local, he's down in Cambridge. So that's our little group. It may grow because it's within Jasami, so anyone who wants to participate. But as Ian said, it's about supporting each other. So asking a question, if you're concerned about, someone, a character, and is this done? How should I portray it? What should it... Being a writer is the most solitary profession because it's between you and your computer or your pad and pencil or paper or pen or whatever it is, however you write. Now, I will say sometimes it's crowded because the characters that live within your head do take up quite a lot of room. However, it is a solitary profession. And I think knowing that others out there are going through the exact same thing that you are going through, and you can ask that question in the confidentiality of the writers group. The little icebreaker is out there, but obviously the other questions and such will be retained within the group, and it is for them to support each other. Some it's going to be a first publication, and some of our writers have already published 3 books, or it might be 1 book, or they're waiting to be published next year. Whatever it is, they are writers, they are creative, and Jasami is all about supporting. We want to support the community, but also our community of writers is key to us, and supporting them is really important. So thank you, Ian as Simpson, for being part of the group, and I think that was a great little icebreaker. I've really enjoyed what everybody's written so far.
So have I. And I think the part about it is, they're writing things you'd never thought about. If you know what I mean. The story's going all over the place.
And that's where the creativity comes from. And when it's something light and easy, rather than having to concentrate, working on the editing of a book, it's quite complex and it takes a lot of energy. And sometimes we forget the creativity of writing something new, and that's where we're inspired. So we always come up with something different. Absolutely, positively. So are you excited about your release?
Yes, and a lot of folk have waited a wee while for this one.
They've been very patient, yes.
Yeah, I just hope they're still alive. It's taking that long.
For the next one, I'm not too sure about this, but yes. And again, the date is the 26th. We will have the link on the website for you to be able to do a pre-order starting next week. So starting on Monday next week, pre-orders will be available.
available in 2 formats, I believe.
Yes. And so through direct purchase and delivery by the author, or available on Amazon to those who are far afield and cannot have the author sign and deliver it to them personally. Mm-hmm. So this was the main part of what we wanted to do today. I wanted the podcast to be about this announcement because you have been very patient about it as the author, mm-hmm. but also as cohort in time. So I'm going to wrap up and put you on the spot as I always do. Who would you like to do a shout out to?
To everybody involved in Going Home. The editors, the publisher, and the artist who done the Beaton front cover, Holly. And hopefully success, and it will be also down to them for making a success.
I know you'll be out there, hunting it, so that's great. Another key part that comes, that's when a writer goes to becoming an author, you have to be out there and going for it, so that's really important. So thank you for that. My shout out is to all of the writers who have joined the Jasami Writers Group. Thank you so much. The group and the support and help that you will give each other is truly appreciated, and I think it's wonderful for you to take the time and do that and have a few little bit more bits of laughter and mischievousness along the way. This is Michèle from Jasami Bookworm Podcast, as always, wishing you a sunny day.